Boy, I wonder what we're going to be talking about today after what happened on Saturday and on Sunday and a little bit on yet today. But in all seriousness, on the cold open, Donald Trump comes out and says that he will be arrested this coming Tuesday, also corroborated by such wonderful and accurate sources as the Krasenstein brothers and MSNBC and CNN and many other places. So we're going to go over all things Trump arrest, what it means for the country, what we're going to do about it going forward, and where it goes from there. In other news, Biden uses his first veto of his presidency to kill off a rebuke of the federal ESG allotment. We'll talk a bit about what's in the bill. Now, I've not read the bill because nobody seems to be able to find a number for that, but we'll talk a little bit about the descriptions about that and where some of the partisan bickering is coming from off of this, because this was a bipartisan bill in order to get to Biden's desk. First Republic keeps failing despite more rescue talks because, as we said on Friday, it's not about the amount of money that you inject into the system. There are bigger issues at play, so we'll be going over that and what's happening there. And Governor Walz signs a bill in Minnesota to provide all kids with free breakfasts and lunches that the people of Minnesota are going to pay for. It is going to be all this and more. I was the one flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. The song is entitled 2 a.m. by Curly, and it appears to be coming from Animal Crossing. I have never played that game, so I cannot confirm that, but what I can say is that it is not 2 a.m. It is 6:14 p.m. Central Time, which means it is time for Contemporary. That is right, my name is Jay Edgar, and this is your evening news, and we've got a lot to go over here today. We'll be talking all things Trump and Trump arrest, because that was the big thing coming out over the weekend, and a lot of people, myself included, spending a lot of time on Twitter and other websites reminding people that, hey, the last time that somebody came out and decided to protest because Trump told them to, there were a bunch of people in the crowd handing them bricks and flagpoles and saying, hey, we've got to go into the Capitol! But they totally weren't FBI agents. Just ask Ray Epps and the January 6th Select Committee. But we will be talking about that and what's going on over that. We've got some of the, I've actually got the DeSantis video. I got two of them, did not pre-listen to them, so I don't know if they're both the same video, but we'll be listening to that. I had a lot of errands that I had to make sure that I had to get through today here. Hey, my driver's license now matches my address. Stupid state. And all the money that they take out of there. Although, I will admit, it costs a lot less to live up here because there's no wheel tax here than it does where I used to live, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised by that. Like, it costs an extra $75 to live in the southern part of the state. Thank God that I am out of there. But yeah, we'll be talking just a bit about that. The Biden veto is incredible to me because, like, he was defiantly jumping into this. And remember, again, this had to be bipartisan in order to make sure that it got to his desk. Now, because this is a repeal of an executive order, I don't believe that this had to pass the filibuster, but we'll be talking just a bit about that and the fact that he was so proud of the fact that he was able to come in and use this as his first veto The banks are just going to crap still because, once again, if you just throw money at the problem, I mean, it doesn't fix anything. So we'll be going over that and the Tim Walz thing and a host of other things over here on Contemporary. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The Already Conservative, The Porch Boys, Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, the No Gimmicks podcast, and more as we bring you a better news and culture experience from the common man for the common man. That is right. Your music, your news, your culture, your religion, all for so long, if you were getting it from on the internet somewhere, all had to come from somebody who wore a suit that cost more than your house. No more. Go check out all that great programming and follow them along as they break some of the stereotypes and standards and give you a better experience through that. So go and check them all out. We will get down into the news today. And by the way, for those of you who are not subscribed to the backup channel and are wondering why you didn't see me on Friday, here's why. I'm going to start with this. I actually got a suspension last Friday morning. It came in. I got the email saying that we are suspending you. You are getting a strike because of misinformation that you had on a video from, and if you've been playing along in the Discord, you already know my reaction to this, from 2 years ago. The title is up on the screen right now. RE61, which means that was the Red Net show, which ended right after Christmas of 2021. Which means this was 2 years ago, because that was 15 episodes before, which means that was 4 months before Christmas. 2021 was when this video was for. So it's almost 2 years old. And I appealed this one, again, expecting, because they said misinformation, but they didn't say what the misinformation was. So, and they didn't give me a timestamp, like they did, like in the video with KTZed streaming from the Trump rally. They gave me an exact timestamp and told me this is where you violated. They didn't give me any of that this time. In fact, in every strike that I've had so far, they gave me an exact timestamp. It said, this is where you effed up. And of course, one was election misinformation because, listening to the Donald Trump speech was one of the big things there. Even though every other news outlet out there could put the same speech out. God forbid I put it back out there. But I was supposed to be off for a week, and there were going to be more details off of that. But miraculously, I put the appeal in and asked, hey, where did I violate? Because, usually you give me a timestamp. And they sent me this back. And they said, hi, J. Edgar. We have reviewed your appeal for the following video. RE number 61, John sits in, the looming debt crisis, Arizona audit, and more. After taking another look, we can confirm that your content does not violate our community guidelines. John, we won. That's right. The YouTube people, I'm guessing just because I was pissing so many people off on Thursday and Friday on Twitter that somebody went out and went on a mass flagging campaign and flagged everything out there, and they found something passably in violation, although again this video had been up for 2 years already. And then when I put it back out there, they went and did a human review, and which means somebody went back and watched that whole video and said, no, you're fine, we put it back up. So we won. We won indeed. And we are back on the main channel. And, of course, I took everything off the backup channel, because just in case, I don't want any strikes on the backup channel until they're absolutely necessary, of course. So, that is where we're at, and that's why we're back on the main channel here. So, KTZed got demonetized and Steven got a strike, both today. Nice. Oh, wheel tax. That is... that's usually a municipal tax that goes on for keeping a vehicle in a municipality, and it's $75 for the village of, or city of rather, Redacted, where I used to live. Buzz Fanning is here. Blind Fear is here as well. Maybe we'll get Mr. Scott over here today as well, so we'll see what's happening with that. John, of course, commenting back, and can't keep me down. Ooh, Luke Wee is here too. Back from Vegas, and I don't really care for this weather. What are you talking? Okay. Little reminder here, and I'm not going to dox Luke Wee too much, but Luke Wee lives within 2 hours of where I live. And it was 54 degrees here today. So I don't know what you're complaining about, but there's nothing to complain about, dude. Anyway, let's get into what we're actually here for, the main news of the day. And if you want to go back out and tell a few more people to get in here and have the conversation, we are going to go through the finance, just a little bit of a light review. We're going to be doing extended finance later, so let's go through, check out what's all going on in our markets, and then we will get into the main news of the day. Gee, I wonder what we're going to be talking about. All right, the Dow. The Dow actually spent the day up today. 382.60, or 1.2% up, 232.244.58, which means that as the bank stocks, both big and mid-size, were falling, there was enough in industry to keep holding that back up. So we'll be doing a bit of a review of what happened today from IBD. We'll talk about that. Looking in at your Bitcoin, which has been in kind of an all over the place here today. But I mean, look at that number. What did we see last week? 24.5. Well, I mean, we can stretch back out and see. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 26.9, and that was at the end of the day after a climb and a little bit of a tumble after that. I think where we looked at it was 26.3. Now we're at 28.81, and that going all the way back out to the 16th. We're up 37.05.50, 15.2% rise on the Bitcoin, because people are starting to look at this and say, hey, you know, I might lose everything with my savings account. I got to do something. I don't know what it is. And they're looking to alternatives. Is this going to be the be-all, end-all? I mean, if Ron Helton were to come back, he would tell you, you know, his usual line of can't hold it or mold it. Might as well have sold it already. But, I mean, what else are you going to do at this point? We can't go back to gold standard. I know they can't print gold right now, but there's got to be somewhere between just keeping everything that you have in gold and ammo and keeping it in the US dollar, which keeps failing over and over again. But we'll be talking about that when it does finally collapse. The gas prices in the Madison, Wisconsin area, the same area that we've been looking at since we started doing Contemporary all the way back in March of 2020, by the way. We have been at this for 3 years, with the exception of 2 weeks when I moved. We have done this every single day for 3 years. Let's look at this here, though. We have got on the west side 330, a 340 at the Shell on the west side, which, I mean, is not good, but it's fine because you always get better gas mileage with Shell than you do with Quick Trip. Coming onto the Isthmus, 320, 314. Out to there, 316 at the Quick Trip entering the Isthmus. 315 on the north side, 313 at the PP next to it, and 316s on the far east side, which means that there is some reprieve coming in your gas prices. It's not great. We're still not seeing 2s and maybe 1s, but we are seeing some reprieve. 10 cents a gallon when you've got a 30-gallon tank is $3 saved. So take the little victories when you can, because they're going to be few and far between, and we will see what is happening with that. Let's grab one from IBD. S&P 500 losers, First Republic crashes, Dow Giant, Microsoft slides. From Ed Carson, First Republic was easily the S&P 500's biggest loser on the market today. Microsoft, Paycom, Intel, and Illumina fell modestly, but rounded out Monday's 5 biggest S&P decliners. The S&P rose 0.9 on Monday, back above its 200-day moving average. FRC stock crashed 47% to $12.18 on Monday, hitting a record low as First Republic becomes the first new epicenter in the banking crisis. JP Morgan is advising California-based First Republic on strategic alternatives, including ways to raise capital. But as FRC stock continues to plunge, a share sale would become an ever more dilutive. Early on Monday, S&P Global downgraded First Republic deeper into junk territory after dropping its investment grade status last week. Moody's first cut First Republic to junk late Friday. Last Thursday, S&P stock FRC popped 10% after JP Morgan and 10 other banks announced they were depositing $30 billion into First Republic, but shares dove 33% on Friday. First Republic stock has plummeted 90.1% so far in March. Speculation is growing that First Republic needs a buyer, but regulators may be reluctant to let a major bank like JP Morgan make a sizable acquisition. That's probably because they want to see it fail, but we will talk about that later on. Microsoft fell 2.6% to 272.23, falling back below a 276.76 flat base buy point. That is according to MarketSmith analysis, but that's after the Dow and the S&P and the NASDAQ component surged 12.4% last week, with 5 days of gains and rising volume. Paycom sank 2.4% to 270.37 on Monday, the lowest close since late June. Intel, another Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ component, retreated 2.2% to 29.16 after reversing lower from the long sliding 200-day line on Friday. Intel has a bottoming base that formed below the 200-day moving average, which is not a great sign, but move above the 31.27 buy point would involve topping the 200-day. Illumina gave up 2.1% to 219.77. The maker of DNA sequencing machines has pulled back over the past several days, since surging 17% on March 13th. The upside is that Illumina now has a handle on its cup-shaped bottoming base. The cup with handle buy point is 238.65. So, a few things moving. We don't see what the futures are looking like just yet here, but we'll definitely be talking about what's happening with that tomorrow. Let's grab our layoffs news from Daily Mail. The Disney cull begins. First wave of 4,000 employees set to be laid off within weeks as part of CEO Bob Iger's $5.5 billion spending cuts. From Hope Sloop, executives at the Disney company are reportedly planning to cut 4,000 jobs in the next 2 weeks, much sooner than expected, as Bob Iger works to save the company some $5.5 billion with a B dollars. One report indicates managers currently working to identify 4,000 employees who are redundant and disposable. Those are words that you want to hear your employers say, and will be required to turn in their lists in the coming weeks, with a big hit to occur in April. The employees who are on the list will then be informed of their termination. The report states it's unclear, however, if the layoffs will happen all at once. Don't worry, it's not the Rona, it's the Winstons. Iger had previously announced 7,000 layoffs throughout the company before he took back over as CEO in November. The cuts come after the company reported profits of $23.51 billion, which exceeded the analysts' expectations of $23.44 billion. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. For those of you who are returning back, which is Quest banning after quite a while, tonight is the live chat night. Now, we used to do this over on Friday nights, but since Friday night and it's getting nicer and we're doing evening news now, I decided that we're going to move this out to Monday. So get your spicy stuff in if you want to hear it at the end of the show. But, you know, now that I don't have to run to work afterwards every day, I am not as stringent on the no live chat policy as I was during the morning show. So do keep that in mind. So, yeah. Quest says it ranged from 30 to 51 today, expecting 36 to 58 tomorrow. You had the weather that we had yesterday, which is what it did. Yeah, it was like 2 degrees when I woke up yesterday and helped my dad with cutting wood. And by the time we were done at noon, it was already 32, and by the time I got home, it was 45. I woke up shivering. Well, I didn't wake up shivering, but I woke up and the first work that I did in the day, I was shivering, bundled up in a sweatshirt and a jacket, and I had dinner with somebody last night, and I went to that with no coat on, to give you the idea of the drasticness in the temperature change. Alright. I've got one more finance. And this is just an idea of what's happening in the regular markets. Dollar Tree cannot afford to sell eggs anymore. From Nathaniel Meyerson. Eggs. Can't believe I'm saying these words. Eggs have gotten too expensive for Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree, which sells most products for $1.25 and a small selection of items for $3 to $5, will stop selling eggs at stores because the company can't make any money offering them at flat prices. Egg prices have surged, fueled by short supply caused by a deadly avian flu, high production costs, and egg producers increasing their own profits. Profit. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing for profit, by the way. The 13th rule of acquisition, which is moved to Tuesday nights, by the way. Egg costs jumped 38% for producers annually in February and 55% for shoppers, although eggs are beginning to get cheaper. The average price for a dozen grade A large was $4.21 in February, according to the data from the BLS. Most retailers have raised egg prices on customers to adjust for higher costs, but Dollar Tree doesn't have as much flexibility to raise prices. Our primary price point at Dollar Tree is $1.25. The cost of eggs is currently very high. The company spokesperson, Randy Guiler, Dollar Tree, which has around 9,000 US stores, will bring back eggs when the costs are more in line with historical levels. Get yourself some chickens! If I wasn't renting right now, I would have a flock of chickens. I'm telling you that right off the bat. I would have a flock of chickens sitting out. Part of the reason what I'm getting in a hurry to go out and buy is because, it's time to have a flock of chickens. But that probably won't be in time for a key egg purchasing holiday, Easter, which is April 9th this year. Reuters first reported that Dollar Tree would stop selling eggs. Family Dollar, owned by Dollar Tree, will continue selling eggs. Shoppers on tight budgets have increasingly turned to dollar stores for food. But don't worry, we have the best economy in the world, so says the president. Yeah, Quest, you're not the first person to talk about duck eggs, by the way, today. Not my Discord, but another one that I participate in. Just before I got started, somebody who's in my Discord, Super Crispy, was talking about the fact that she just got a bunch of duck eggs for less than chicken eggs. I've never gone out and looked for duck eggs. I don't know that I've ever tried a duck egg. I'm trying to think. I've tried duck and I didn't care for it. I've had pheasant eggs. I like those. Those are really good. If you have a chance to get pheasant eggs, get those. I don't know if I've tried duck eggs. And honestly, around here, we can still get eggs for a decent price. It's not the price that it was, but anywhere in Wisconsin that you see a Quick Trip, they are still at $2.99. Actually, at the Woodman's, they're not $2.99, but they're not bad either. So that is where we are at with that. I'm going to save this because I actually have a friend that works at a Dollar Tree. I'm going to send this to her after the fact. Pheasant eggs are good. They're small, though, so you got to use a lot of them. They're expensive. They're really good. All right. I wonder what we're about to talk about. What could be driving the news right now? Anybody? Bueller? From USA Today. Is Donald Trump being arrested? Here are the possible charges in the New York investigation. This is from Bart Jansen and Kevin Johnson. The Manhattan DA's investigation of Trump has been going on for years and outlasted so many fits and starts that it's been described as a zombie case. With a decision on possible charges now believed to be imminent, public information from witnesses who have been debriefed by prosecutors and provided testimony to a grand jury indicate that a large focus of the investigation has not strayed from its start. A payment the former president made to a porn actress to silence her in the waning days of the 2016 campaign. Alvin Bragg hasn't explained his strategy and Trump hasn't been charged, but hush money payment could potentially be used to build a case for falsifying business records and violating campaign finance laws. So, this is what USA Today has to say about us. Let's back up a little bit. On Saturday morning, now, I'm a little bit fuzzy on the timeline for this because I didn't hear a word about it from Truth Social until like noon. I'm not on Truth Social, so I was relying on people like Joy Reid and Rachel Madcow and people like that to go back out and post breathlessly the link. And I mean, these people all have Truth Social accounts. You know that they do. Because they have to be the first one to take the screenshot and put it out to everywhere else. I did not hear anything about this until like noon on Saturday. I was working on Saturday. But early in the day, I did see a post from one of the moron Krasenstein brothers. I don't know which one it was. I think it was Ed. Anyway, I mean, they're the same thing. It's the ambiguously gay duo, except with incest involved. But they were out there, and they were giving us the conversation of, oh, it's a bad day for Trump now. Oh, it's been announced he's going to be indicted in Manhattan on Tuesday. And the first I heard about this, I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, this is a trap. And actually, it was right after I got off Contemporary Friday night that I got it from the Krasenstein, which they're saying that Trump dropped it on Saturday morning on Truth Social, which means that the Krasensteins had an advanced copy leaked. I'm remembering my own timeline off of this now. So, yeah, and I remember hearing, oh, this is going to get shady. This is going to get shaky. And then I spent a little bit of on and off time, because I was working, on and off of Twitter, advising people, whatever they do, you can protest all that you want, but if somebody is out here whispering in your ear, hey, we've got to go to Manhattan, or we've got to go to DC, that person probably doesn't have your best interest at heart, and is probably not going to be there with you. There is a lot to unpack with this, and I am going to actually attempt to get done with this so we can go and move on to some other stories before we finish out of here. But some of the first things that go with this, number one, my first thought on this was that it's a trap, but as the more that I looked at this, and the more people have come on, and the more people have deleted their tweets, by the way, and there have been a bunch of those, and the more I look at this, and I wonder if this wasn't the FBI and the mainstream media trying to take the temperature to see if they could get away with another January 6th. You know, they're sitting here trying to drive the pro-Trump people into a frenzy and a tizzy. But now they come back out and they announce that they're going to do something like this, and now it's like, oh, well, come on, get out to Manhattan. And there's been a lot of Fed posting on both sides. Republican candidate, I cannot think of his name right offhand, I put out saying, hey, I'm spending $1 million for private security, and everybody in Manhattan get a bat out there just in case we have to take down some MAGAs, which is like definite Fed posting. God, what was that moron's name? But the important part of this is, I mean, this is falsifying business records. This is a misdemeanor. This is a pay your fine, pay some restitution, and be on your way. I mean, it's like a $10,000 fine, but it's... And somehow they've been able to trump this up, no pun intended, into a felony charge, because they're out talking about the Frog March and whether or not they're going to be able to use handcuffs or not. Let's see what it is they have to say. How does the Stormy Daniels payment figure into the investigation? The heart of the New York investigation into Trump appears to focus on a hush money payment Michael Cohen arranged for porn actress Stormy Daniels. The $130,000 payment aimed to prevent her from publicizing her claim of having had sex with Trump before the 2016 election, which, by the way, it surfaced after the fact that she actually denied that in 2018. Again, don't worry, it's not the Rona, it's the Winstons. Cohen pleaded guilty in August 2018 to concealing income from Internal Revenue Service, making a false statement, and causing $280,000 in payments to be made to silence two women who were otherwise planned to speak publicly about their alleged affairs with the presidential candidate, according to the Justice Department. Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in prison, although he was released early to home detention because of the threat of the pinko pox in prison. Quest says, I'm thinking of trying to make a quick video to get a look and share the screen by Trump Tower tomorrow morning. Be careful, because you are anti-government on your Twitter. And if they ping your phone, you're probably going to go to federal prison or a holding cell while you await trial for 3.5 years. Or more. If you want to do it, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. All I'm saying is to be careful about it. Because I don't have, well, they're not going to offer bail anyway, but I don't have the bail. Cohen and Daniels have each testified before the grand jury. Evidence bolstering Cohen's testimony includes emails, texts, and other documents gathered during a search of Cohen's electronic devices. A source familiar with the investigation told the USA Today. Trump has denied wrongdoing, but admitted to making the payment to Daniels. I did absolutely nothing wrong. I never had an affair with Stormy Daniels, nor would I have wanted to have an affair with Stormy Daniels, Trump said on his social media site Truth Social. I relied on counsel in order to resolve this extortion of me. Which is another interesting aspect and avenue to this. Now, most of us are probably never going to have to go through this in our lives, and a focus to what we're doing and what we're talking about is from the common man, for the common man, what affects us. But when we do look at billionaire financiers and billionaire real estate agents and billionaire entrepreneurs, one thing to keep in mind is the fact that sometimes, rather than trying to take something to trial, that's going to wind up just being a he said, she said, but get drug out for months and months and months and years sometimes. In the middle of a presidential campaign, like, what do you think it's going to look like if you're sitting here in the middle of a presidential campaign? But even if it's not in the middle of a presidential campaign, like the Elon buyout of Twitter, that's another good example. It came out right after he said he was going to go buy out Twitter. And the lady on his plane came out and said, oh, well, he used to come in and make me give him full body massages and touch his nuts while we were on the plane, and I was just a stewardess and I didn't want to do that, and she got paid out to. There is no proof that Elon did anything wrong or did anything like that. But given the fact that he was going through probably one of the biggest purchases of his lifetime, it was probably better off for him to just pay the money, say, here you go, shut up, let's get this out of court. Whether the Donald did the deed with Stormy or not, the only two people in the world that are ever going to know that are one Donald John Trump and one Stephanie Clifford, aka Stormy Daniels. Those are the only two people who will ever know for sure. If they went and got busy. Anybody else is going to be speculation, no matter what. Anybody else out there is going to be speculation. But again, if she's coming out here and saying, okay, well, CNN has come out and paid me to say that I stooped you, and you were the guy behind all the modeling pageants, so everybody's going to believe it. It would probably be easier for them to come up and say, hey, Micah, here's a bunch of money. Give it to Stormy. I don't know who she is. She's got a dog face. Kind of like a pony soldier, okay? Just give it to her. Sorry, I got my presidential campaigns mixed up there. Just give it to her. Make her go away. We can't have this trial going up while I'm in the middle of trying to fly across the country and have rallies. The biggest rallies, the best rallies, the greatest rallies out there, with millions of people who want to come in and have me speak. But again, there are only two people in the world who know what actually happened. Period. Campaign finance charges would typically come at the federal level, but the Justice Department declined to charge, and the Federal Election Commission deadlocked over potentially taking action in the case. New York grand jury in Manhattan has long been investigating Trump and his namesake company. The two New York prosecutors who've been leading the criminal investigation quit Bragg's office in 2022 with the resignations of Carrie Dunn and Mark Pomerantz come just over a month into Bragg's tenure and raised questions about whether he could pursue the investigation. But the investigation into Trump's business operations eventually resulted in convictions of two parts of the Trump organization and its chief financial officer, Weisselberg, over tax evasion conspiracy. Trump wasn't charged in that case, most likely because he had nothing to do with it. Bragg's office hasn't announced how it's investigating Trump based on witness called. The inquiry seems to focus on the hush money payment, which wasn't necessarily illegal. One potential legal strategy is that Trump could be charged with falsifying business records. In combination with another criminal violation, falsifying business records is a misdemeanor, but it would become a felony if it's linked to a second crime. The second charge could be an alleged campaign finance violation for failing to report the $130,000 payment to Daniels as a contribution to his presidential campaign, which, by the way, is shaky at best. Because if it came out of his personal finance, like if it came out of his pocket, then he's in the clear. They would have to prove beyond a shadow of reasonable doubt that it came from the campaign. And unless there is major documentation of that getting withdrawn from there, that is a shaky case at best. Norm Eisen, a lawyer and former counsel to the first House impeachment of Trump, said accounting for the hush money as legal fees appears to be a clear violation of the law, but elevating that misdemeanor to a felony with a second charge is a steep challenge for Bragg, Eisen said. Linking a bookkeeping charge to a campaign finance violation or wire fraud is a challenge because it would be a state case referring to a federal crime, according to Eisen. But he said no courts have ruled out using a federal crime as a second violation, or prosecutors might find a second state charge. So that is what we know about this so far. It does appear that there is intent to do this. In probably one of the stupidest moves of his post-presidency, from the Daily Wire, Trump tells supporters to protest and not sit back and watch. Can't allow this anymore. From Ryan Saavedra. Former President Trump called on his supporters Saturday afternoon to take action, after he claimed earlier in the day that he will be arrested next week. The remarks from Trump came after a report from NBC News said federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies were analyzing security assessments and making plans to prepare for the possibility that Trump could be indicted next week by a Manhattan grand jury in connection with a $130,000 hush money payment he allegedly made to porn actress Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. It's time. We're a nation in steep decline, being led into World War III by a crooked politician who doesn't even know he's alive, but who's surrounded by evil and sinister people who, based on their actions on defunding the police, destroying our military, open borders, no voter ID, inflation, raising taxes, and much more, can only hate our now failing USA. We just can't allow this anymore. They're killing our nation as we sit back and watch. We must save America. Protest, protest, protest. Trump's statement in the afternoon comes after he wrote on social media earlier in the day, illegal leaks from a corrupt and highly political Manhattan DA, which has allowed new records to be set in violent crime and whose leader is funded by George Soros, indicate that with no crime being able to be proven, based on an old and fully debunked by numerous other prosecutors fairy tale, the far and away leading Republican candidate and former president of the U.S. will be arrested on Tuesday, next week. Protest, take our nation back. Although NDAs are legal, the potential problem for Trump centers around how his company reimbursed Cohen. The payment was listed as a legal expense, and the company cited a retainer agreement with Cohen. The retainer agreement did not exist, and the reimbursement was not related to any legal services from Cohen, thus setting up the potential misdemeanor criminal charge of falsifying business records. The report said that Trump personally signed several of the checks to Cohen while he was serving as president. And again, my reminder to you is that, number one, if you do go down there, and this is why I made the warning out to Fanning, if you do go out there and attempt to protest, even peacefully, if you go to Manhattan, you will be arrested. I don't know if they have the wherewithal and the gall to kill over this, but they might. And again, just like I warned before January 6th, that will be like fish in a barrel. And if you go to D.C. to protest because your neighbor said that that's what you have to do and that's what true patriots do, number one, your neighbor's probably not going with you, and number two, you will be going up against the National Guard, and you will be killed, or you will be arrested and forced to sit in front of a hyper-partisan DA, just like you would do in Manhattan. Be careful if you're going to be anywhere near these places, and I realize that there are people that live near these places. that are not necessarily friendly to the current administration. There aren't many of them, but there are people out there who are not friendly to the current administration, who live in these areas, who will be close by default, like Fanning. So be careful is all that I have to say with that. And don't touch the brick. Don't go in any buildings. I speculated on Twitter the other day. My big question is at the courthouse where the DA's office is, how do the NYPD get to decide who's going to be the one holding the door open and entrapping the people? Is there a lottery? Do they do it by seniority? How do they decide that? Let's see, from Fox. Trump received no notification other than illegal leaks about possible arrest next week, spokesperson says, from Kyle Morris. Former President Trump has seen no notification other than illegal leaks to the press that he will be arrested next week, according to a spokesperson who says Trump is rightfully highlighting his innocence, as reports surface about a possible indictment. There has been no notification other than an illegal leak from the Justice Department and the DA's office to NBC and other fake news carriers that the George Soros-funded radical left Democrat prosecutor in Manhattan has decided to take this witch hunt to the next level. President Trump is rightfully highlighting his innocence and the weaponization of our injustice system, a Trump spokesperson said, adding that former president would be in Texas next week for a giant rally. I would sit that one out if it was me. Again, it's just going to take one person in a crisp, clean, brand new MAGA hat and a Trump 2024 flag, or 2024 flag that still has the creases on it, to be up there whispering in your ear, "Come on, just rush at they can't extradite him, but rush at the agents that are going to try to extradite him. Just run at them. No, you'll be fine. We have to let them know how we feel about this." And by the way, that statement right there, that just sounds like that sounds like it came straight from Trump. I imagine the person that was reading that was doing it like reading a script. I was like, George Soros funded radical left Democrat prosecutor, witch hunt, next level, he's highlighting his innocence. Like, there's one person that's involved with this that talks like that. And anybody else that's getting involved that is talking like that has got to be reading cue cards. I'm telling you. The statement follows reports that the Manhattan DA's office is preparing to issue an indictment for alleged hush money payments that Trump made as a presidential candidate in 2016. A court source told Fox News Digital that Manhattan Alvin Bragg's office will meet with law enforcement to discuss logistics for some time next week, which would mean they're anticipating an indictment next week. Potential indictment stems from the years-long investigation. We've read about this already. In a lengthy statement to Fox News Digital, Trump spokesperson Stephen Cheng blasted the investigation as a witch hunt and accused Bragg of being in the pocket of President Biden and radical Democrats. Take care. I mean, does anybody deny that that's what's happening here now at this point? I feel like nobody can sit back and deny that that's what's happening here. 3 YouTubers, 1 Twitcher. And apparently DLive viewers are not showing up on this, which is lame. I like DLive, because I know Fanning is watching over there. Anyway, we got to keep going on this one. Let's grab one from CBS. Ron DeSantis and Mike Pence react to Trump's claim that he'll be arrested. From Aaron Navarro. So we've got the DeSantis video. If they become relevant, we'll move those up. Florida Governor DeSantis sought to distance himself from the former president's claim that he would be arrested Tuesday when he was asked about it at a news conference on Monday, which, okay, I guess that means that this is going to become relevant. Let's listen to this one here, and then if We'll listen to some of the other one, but if it's just crossover, then we'll skip to the second one. Let's kill the music and let's see what old Ron's got to say.
Extradition to New York.
So I've seen rumors swirl. I have not seen any facts yet, and so I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know this: the Manhattan District Attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor, and so he, like other Soros-funded prosecutors, they weaponize their office to impose a political agenda on society at the expense of the rule of law and public safety. He has downgraded over 50% of the felonies to misdemeanors. He says he doesn't want to even have jail time for the vast, vast majority of crimes. And what we've seen in Manhattan is we've seen the crime rate go up, and we've seen citizens become less safe. And so you're talking about this situation with, and look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is that if you have a prosecutor who is ignoring crimes happening every single day in his jurisdiction, and he chooses to go back many, many years ago to try to use something about porn star hush money payments, that's an example of pursuing a political agenda and weaponizing the office. And I think that that's fundamentally wrong. I also think it's important to point out when you're talking about these Soros-funded prosecutors, yes, they may do a high-profile politicized prosecution, and that's bad, but the real victims are ordinary New Yorkers, ordinary Americans in all these different jurisdictions, that they get victimized every day because of the reckless political agenda that these Soros DAs bring to their job. They ignore crime and they empower criminals, and that hurts people. It hurts a lot of people every single day. These Soros district attorneys are a menace to society, and I'm just glad that I'm the only governor in the country that's actually removed one from office during my tenure.
So that was a lot of words to say nothing. He is going after he's going after Alvin Bragg, absolutely. Rightfully so, of course. As far, though, as because the question was whether or not that he would extradite. I didn't hear an answer to that. He would just say that he's not getting involved one way or another, as what I got out of that, which, is a complete non-answer to that. And it was also pointed out in the Discord, which if you're not in the Discord, the link is in the description in the YouTube video, and it's flying by you occasionally if you're on the Twitch side. I think it's in the description on the DLive side as well, but if you're not in the Discord, come back in and check that out and get into the conversation. Putz pointing out the fact that Ron DeSantis is taking time off of his national book tour to tell you that he's focusing on Floridian issues by not getting involved in this. That is a good point. That's definitely a good one to come with. Yeah, this is just a 50-second clip off that same one. So let's keep reading here. His answer elicited laughter from the audience of supporters in Panama, Florida. Would that be the Panama City where the grass is green and the girls are pretty? Or would that be a different place? The reference to the core of Manhattan DA's investigation was just one swipe within DeSantis' full answer, in which he labeled any district attorney backed by billionaire Soros as a menace to society who is ignoring local crime. I have no interest in getting involved in some type of manufactured circus by some Soros DA. We've got so many things pending in front of the legislature. I've got to spend my time on issues that actually matter to people. I can't spend my time worrying about things of that nature. Yeah, he's got books to sell. But DeSantis' answer and some of the reaction or lack of reaction from other potential 24 candidates comes at a time when Trump is trying to gain some benefit from the investigation. His campaign has sent out multiple fundraising emails labeling the investigation as a witch hunt that will threaten his political movement. I will never surrender, and you will never surrender. Media leaks are correct. This could be the last time I write to you before a possible indictment comes down. A Trump campaign fundraising email sent on Monday claimed. Do we have Pence's remarks? Because they said, okay, there we go. Over the weekend, former President Pence, or Vice President rather, Pence. God, don't say former President Pence, jeez. That's a scary enough thought in and of itself. Which, by the way, Michael Pence will never be president. That I can almost say with certainty. Former Vice President Pence called the investigation another politically charged prosecution against Trump, and that people have a right to express the frustration that they feel to see a liberal Manhattan DA poised to indict the former president. I will tell you more, but I am alone in this room right now, and a woman is coming in and it's not my wife, so I have to leave, eloquently. That can be said, there can be no tolerance for the kind of violence that we saw on January 6th, or throughout the summer of 2020, he told reporters in Iowa on Saturday when asked about Trump's calls for protests. Let's see, what else do we have? Now, whether or not this is indictable or not, this is popping up today from Insider, not so fast. A New York grand jury will hear a final surprise witness on Monday and won't vote on Trump indictment until it's over. From Laura Italiano. A possible Trump hush money indictment is on hold until a final witness testifies before a Manhattan grand jury on Monday afternoon. There is one more witness, a source with knowledge of the investigation told Insider on Saturday night. Unnamed, of course, the source spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to divulge details of the grand jury proceedings, which means, again, this could be absolutely, literally anybody. The janitor. Somebody who managed to sneak in. Some kid who has no idea what's going on. A grand juror's kid. Out of childcare. This could be literally anybody. The source declined to identify the witness, whose testimony will cap a 2-month grand jury presentation by prosecutors under District Attorney Alvin Bragg. A separate source, who also spoke on condition of anonymity, told Insider that the witness is not Alan Weisselberg, Trump's former CFO, who is serving a 5-month sentence for admittedly masterminding a payroll tax dodge scheme at Trump Organization. Former Trump attorney and fixer Michael Cohen, the prosecution's star witness, for his admitted role in wiring the illegal $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels days before the 2016 election, has told reporters he expected to be the grand jury's final witness when he testified last Monday and Wednesday. The surprise final witness provides an updated clue to the timing of a possible indictment of Trump and any co-defendants. The grand jury, which meets in secret in a lower Manhattan office building, only gathers to hear testimony during 3-hour afternoon sessions on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Its members, anywhere from 16 to 23 in number, could conceivably reach a vote by the end of Monday's 3-hour session. But that would be unlikely. Experts who have described the Manhattan grand jury process to Insider say there are several steps between the final testimony and the vote. Once testimony concludes, the prosecutors will charge the jury, meaning go through the potential counts on a charge sheet one by one, explaining each count to the potential indictment. Sources have told Insider they expect the top count to be falsifying business records in the first degree, a low-level felony that would allege Trump and any other co-defendant falsified documents in order to conceal another crime, such as omitting $130,000 from campaign finance statements. How is this a felony, by the way? So, we will see what happens with that. On the logistics. What role would Secret Service play in possible Trump arrest? Ex-agent explains. So we're going to listen to this. At least part of it. This is a 3-minute video, so let's have a listen.
Talk about unprecedented here. The possibility, and again, we don't know if it's going to happen, but the possibility of a former president being arrested raises all kinds of security concerns and processes we've just never seen before. Yes, Trump called for protests over the weekend. There's that, and I'm sure there's security concerns there. What should we be looking for, and how will this even work? Which different agencies from the state, from the city, from the federal government might be involved with this?
John, great question. And listen, there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't have line of sight of exactly what the prosecutors are doing right now, but we do have line of sight of what law enforcement is doing. And what they're doing is, with the backdrop of actions from January 6th, they're being hyper coordinated around their efforts, and those efforts are across multiple law enforcement entities, both at the state, local, and federal level. But what's really interesting, John, is that the roles and responsibilities around all of the different law enforcement entities that are involved are different. They have a different remit on how they're addressing this issue. And let me just quickly walk you through what we're looking at. The NYPD, right? They are in charge of maintaining civil order. So what they're going to do is they're going to be focused on the area around the courthouse, but also New York City at large, right? There are multiple areas where protests could spark at a moment's notice. And remember, NYPD has a dual role here. Protesters are individuals who are exercising their First Amendment rights, and they need to be protected in the execution of those rights. But NYPD is also keenly aware of any type of violent activity that may stem from these protests. So they have a dual remit there on maintaining that civil order and protecting protesters. New York State court officers, they're the ones that are going to be protecting the courthouse, the physical building itself, again, from any type of activity. The FBI, they're involved. Why? Because they're monitoring for any types of violations of federal law by any of these protesters. They're looking for acts of potential domestic violence by extremists, so they're involved. Now you have the Secret Service, and the Secret Service playing an interesting role. Usually we see the Secret Service as a coordinating entity. They're the ones that usually come up with these security plans for rallies and speeches and any type of political event surrounding either a sitting or former president. But in this case, they're not. They are in a protective mode. They are viewing this as really an administrative movement where they have to protect Donald Trump from point A to point B, let him do his business before the court and leave. They are not playing that active role that we typically see them in. They're not providing the magnetometers at the courthouse. They're not providing the perimeter security that we typically see. Now, are they working with law enforcement partners? The answer is yes. They're going to be informed, but they are not the controlling entity, which is something rare that we typically don't see the Secret Service engage with.
He says it is Truth Social.
So, and that's going to be an interesting side to what actually happens with that and where this goes, because again, a big thing with that is this is not precedented, and like, where are they going to keep the guy if they arrest him and hold him on remand? Where are they going to keep him? Are they going to lock the Secret Service up in there with him? By law, the president has Secret Service protection for life. So we'll be watching that. Some of the reaction here from the Hill. House GOP turns knives on Manhattan. DA over potential Trump arrest, from Emily Brooks. House Republicans are taking aim at Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as former President Trump teases his imminent arrest stemming from Bragg's investigation into hush money payments ahead of the 2016 election. Republicans are backing up Trump's outrage about a witch hunt, a familiar talking point since he ascended to the presidency, while urging supporters to remain peaceful. At the same time, they've turned their attention to Bragg, seeking to paint him as a rogue prosecutor who allowed crime in the city to skyrocket while pursuing a zombie case against Trump. Following a promise from Speaker McCarthy to investigate whether any federal funds have been spent in the probe, 3 House GOP committee chairs requested testimony from Bragg. Your actions will erode confidence in the even-handed application of justice and unalterably interfere in the course of the 2024 presidential election. Jim Jordan, House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer, and House Admin Committee Chair Brian Stile wrote in a letter to Bragg on Monday. Years of Trump scandals have reportedly put Republicans in a tight spot. The Hill has to editorialize it. They always do. but Bragg is a convenient target for the House GOP. Be objective, damn it. I have to be. Which gained seats in New York in 2022 as the party heavily messaged against Democrat policies on crime. Republicans repeatedly pointed to charges being downgraded under Bragg's tenure. We've watched crime in New York where people are afraid to walk the streets, McCarthy said at a press conference, kicking off the House GOP's annual issues retreat in Orlando, Florida on Sunday. One of the reasons we've won races in New York is based upon this DA of not protecting the citizens of New York, and now he's spending his time on this. Bragg's office pushed back on Monday. We will not be intimidated by attempts to undermine the justice process, nor will we let baseless accusations deter us from fairly applying the law. A spokesperson said in a statement, "In every persecution, we follow the law without fear or favor to uncover the truth. Our skilled, honest, and dedicated lawyers remain hard at work." Asked about whether it was appropriate for Republicans to seek information and testimony of an ongoing investigation, McCarthy says he is supportive of committees being able to ask questions at any given time. Republicans are also seeking to tie Bragg to the billionaire George Soros, a frequent GOP boogeyman and major funder of Democratic causes, and again with the editorialization. I don't know why these people cannot be objective. This is a DA that got more than $1 million from Soros, McCarthy said. Soros has supported the election of progressive DAs across the country in recent years, writing last year to the Wall Street Journal that he hopes reform-minded prosecutors will help curb injustices in the criminal system. The Soros-connected PAC Color of Change supported Bragg in his 2021 campaign, pledging to spend more than $1 million in independent expenditures to help his election. I'm hoping that rogue left-wing political prosecutor, funded by Soros, takes a step back and realizes the damage that it does to the country, and it puts country over his partisan and his political ambitions, because it is clearly a political stunt and not a legal move, said Rep. Mario Diaz-Balart of Florida. We were used to seeing that in places, third world countries, but that's something that doesn't happen in this one, Diaz-Balart said. Bragg has not yet officially made any decision on charging Trump with a crime over his role directing a $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election, as she prepared to go public with the story about her affair with Trump. The case is also looking reportedly at a payment of $150,000 to former Playboy model Karen McDougal earlier this year, which Fanning pointed out earlier on. That is a lie, by the way. Bragg has already made the decision, and he ran on that. He and, what's the other lady's name? The state prosecutor. The state DA for New York. God, I can't think of her name. I can see her face. I can't think of her name. State AG for New York, that's it. Tisha James, that's her. Like, she literally ran on the fact that she was going to put Trump in prison. And if I remember correctly, and I don't know how Manhattan, borough positions work like that, but I do believe that Alvin Bragg did so as well, which on both aspects of it tells me that they both should be forced to recuse themselves from this. If they made this, how can you be objective if your actual campaign was, I'm going to put this person in prison. Bring me the man and I will find you the crime. And especially, again, because the federal government, which overlooks things like campaign finance, declined to prosecute. So, we will see from the New York Post. Chris Rock weighing in on this one. Chris Rock calls lawmakers stupid for wanting Trump arrested, from Lee Brown. Chris Rock joked that former President Trump was romantic for allegedly paying out porn star Stormy Daniels while calling lawmakers stupid for wanting him arrested, warning it will only inflate his popularity. The 58-year-old comedian addressed the expected arrest as he helped honor Adam Sandler at the Mark Twain Prize late Sunday, directly addressing lawmakers in the audience, including Nancy Pelosi. "Are you guys really going to arrest Trump?" Rock asked the crowd, according to the Daily Mail, which noted that several officials from the Biden admin were in the Kennedy Center crowd. "Do you know this is only going to make you more popular? It's like arresting Tupac," he quipped of the late rapper. "You just going to sell more records? Are you stupid?" he asked, to a roar of laughter, according to the outlet. Rock also poked fun at the expected charges over Trump, 76, allegedly paying hush money to Stormy Daniels to try to kill her affair claims in the run-up to the 2016 election. He joked that the future president, earmuffs, fucked a porn star and paid off someone so his wife couldn't find out. That's romantic. We all been cheated on. Don't you wish that person that cheated you paid off someone so you wouldn't find out? Trump was far from the only politician whom Rock focused on during his bit, cracking up the Washington, D.C. crowd, including President Biden. The oldest ever commander-in-chief had 80. "Trump was so bad as president. He was so bad that Joe Biden had to burst off a monument. Biden was dead for 16 years, Rock quipped. Rock also gave a shout-out to Pelosi's husband, Paul, jokingly comparing the home invasion hammer attack to Rock's own high-profile assault when he slapped Will Smith at the Oscars last year. "Paul Pelosi, the only guy who knows how I felt," Rock joked of the 82-year-old sitting next to the lawmaker wife. "Just me and you, Paul." Others honoring Sandler include Drew Barrymore, Conan O'Brien, Jennifer Aniston, Steve Buscemi, Dana Carvey, and Luis Guzman, which in and of itself is a star-studded lineup. Let's see. On the reaction here from ABC 7 Eyewitness, New York City preparing for possible protests if former President Trump is indicted. Do we have video of this? No, this is like the actual live feed of their news. New York City officials are preparing for the possibility of protests Tuesday after former President Trump indicated that he could be indicted this week. Over the weekend, Trump said on Truth Social he expected to face criminal charges and urged supporters to protest his possible arrest. In a series of social media posts through the weekend, the former Republican president criticized the New York investigation, directing particularly hostile rhetoric towards Alvin Bragg. In Trump's social media call for protests, some heard an echo of January 6th, but the intelligence assessment obtained by ABC News said this time members of Congress are unlikely targets. Rather, it is likely that any protest or violence will be directed at Manhattan DA's office, the Department of Justice, or the FBI, the assessment said. And that's because that's where we're going to be pushing them. That's where we're going to be leading them when they go out and protest. We are monitoring comments on social media. The NYPD is doing their normal role of making sure that there are no inappropriate actions in the city, Eric Adams said. The assessment noted social media calls for everything from armed demonstrations and possible violence to roadblocks and trucker boycott of New York City. Well, the armed ones, the armed demonstrations, by the way, those are feds. A trucker boycott, that's a peaceful protest. That is a peaceful protest, keep in mind. It may not happen, but the probability is it will happen. And we wouldn't be going through these machinations if it weren't, the former NYPD chief of detectives, Robert Boyce, says. Eyewitness News has learned there were 2 tactical meetings over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday to plan how they were going to lead protesters to the Manhattan DA's office, and then how they were going to respond after they led them there. Any mobilization would include Borough Command, the Strategic Response Group, Emergency Service Unit, ESU K-9, Aviation, and Intel. Now, I have said this in this episode already, and I am about to say it again. If you go to the Manhattan DA's office you may be killed. And if you are not killed, you will be arrested and made to sit in front of Alvin Bragg, who will prosecute you. It's not a might. You will be arrested and made to sit in front of Alvin Bragg if you are not killed outright. If you protest at the FBI headquarters, you may be killed. And if you are not killed, you will be made to sit in front of a Washington, D.C. DA, who will use the full might of the January 6th narrative to push that agenda. If you go to D.C. to protest at the Capitol or the White House, the U.S. Capitol Police, if they do not outright kill you, will put you in a cell. This is not a might. They will put you in a cell and hold you there until a biased district attorney and judge against you have time to hear your case, sometimes 2.5 to 3 years. Do not go to the protests in these areas. If you want to put on a demonstration, do so in your neighborhood. Put a sign out. Vote. Do not go to Manhattan. Do not go to DC ever to protest. Ever, ever, ever. Do not take the fight to them. You will be deceased, and if you are not deceased, you will be made to sit in front of a judge and a DA who are working in cahoots to put you into prison for the rest of your life. It is sad that there is not an ability to go back out and protest the way that they do. And by the way, the FBI is leading those protests too. Do not go to these places. End of story. Do not go. And the FBI issued an email alert saying, at the present time, there's no information to confirm this indictment, nor is there any information to indicate violence or criminal activity is planned. However, all enforcement agents around the country are remaining vigilant after January the 6th. I don't believe that we'll see anything like January the 6th, hopefully never again in our country, Boyce said. Protesters already started gathering Monday in front of Trump Tower on 5th Avenue and in front of the criminal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. There are now barricades and additional surveillance cameras. By the way, there is a protest going on out there, and it is 5 people in masks. Take that for what it is. While we were watching the CNN video, I looked over on Twitter and I found the video of that. And it's 5 people in masks, by the way. In masks. The NYPD does this all the time. The hardest job is keeping the pro-Trump people and the anti-Trump people apart, Boyce said. Well, you can put your anti-Trump people in disguises and MAGA hats in the crowd with the pro-Trump people and go start whispering in your ears, man, those anti-Trumpers over there, don't you just want to throw a brick at them? Do not go to Manhattan. Do not go in front of Trump Tower. Do not go near the Manhattan DA's office. Do not. Marjorie Taylor Greene says Republicans don't need to protest potential Trump arrest. From Elizabeth Pritchett. Again, don't go to where they're planning to pitch you into violence. Have a walkout at work. Take some of your sick time. Do a bank run. If you're a trucker, boycott New York City. Do not go to the ground. in these protests. Do not. Thou shalt not. No Edheads die on my watch. No Edheads go to prison on my watch. Shortly after former President Trump announced he expects to be arrested, Marjorie Taylor Greene said Republicans don't need to protest the possible pending arrest because the communist Democrats have sealed their fate. The representative from Georgia took to her professional Twitter account multiple times Saturday to share her thoughts on Trump's Truth Social post, where he said illegal leaks from the Manhattan DA's office have led him to believe he will be arrested on Tuesday. In her first tweet Saturday morning, Greene came after the Department of Justice and the Manhattan DA by stating, "The potential arrest is all for politics. This here's what they do in them their communist countries to destroy their political opponents. Republicans in Congress must subpoena these communists and end this. We will have the power to do it. And we will also have the power to defund their salaries and departments. Enough of this." A couple hours later, Greene seemingly responded to Trump's request that the people protest and take our nation back by saying Republicans don't need to protest the communist Democrats and the party's political weaponization. "These idiots are sealing their own fate in 2024 because the silent majority has two feelings right now about their current regime: fear and anger." The firebrand lawmaker said the two feelings are the most powerful combination leading up to an election. Democrats are driving that force with their own corrupt actions. And again, there are things that you can do to protest that are peaceful. Don't go to the ground. Whatever you do, do not do that. But there is more coming off of this. Meanwhile, in Georgia, from CNN, Trump's legal team seeks to throw out special grand jury report on 2020 election interference in Georgia from Sarah Murray. Attorneys for former President Trump have asked a judge to toss the final report and evidence from a special grand jury in Georgia that spent months investigating efforts by Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 election. Trump's attorneys are also asking the judge to disqualify the Fulton County District Attorney's Office from overseeing the investigation, according to a new court filing. President Donald J. Trump hereby moves to quash the GJ's Special Purpose Grand Jury's report and preclude the use of any evidence derived therefrom, as it was conducted under an unconstitutional statute, through an illegal and unconstitutional process, and by a disqualified district attorney's office, who violated prosecutorial standards and acted with disregard for the gravity of the circumstances and the constitutional rights of those involved, Trump's attorneys wrote in the filing. The motion to quash the special grand jury's work and disqualify the DA's office from pursuing any charges in the case is Trump's first effort to intervene in the long-running investigation conducted by Fulton County DA Fani Willis, a Democrat. It signals the aggressive approach, and Trump's attorneys are likely to take in fighting and any potential charges Trump could face. So far, no one has been charged in Georgia. Willis's office is considering bringing racketeering and conspiracy charges, CNN reported on Monday. CNN has requested comment from the Fulton County DA's office. The wide-ranging objection by Trump's attorneys cover a number of decisions by the judge who oversaw the grand jury, the conduct of the Fulton County DA, and a variety of interviews last month by a special grand jury's foreperson. A special grand jury investigating Trump and his associates concluded work in December, and a judge overseeing the panel made small slivers of the report public in February. After the partial release, a foreperson for the panel went on a media tour, during which she indicated roughly a dozen individuals have been recommended for criminal charges. Yeah, this whole thing is a mess. And Emily Kors did not do any favors for herself. That is a very suggestive t-shirt, next to a very suggestive model picture, and I don't know why that's over here. Thank you, CNN, for that. Honestly, with what Emily Kors did, I don't think it would be completely inappropriate to throw out this charge. You've leaked major parts of the grand jury. You've shown this to be extremely partisan. Even without getting the DA involved, it does seem like it would be appropriate to do this on this case. But they're not done yet either. Fulton County prosecutors probing election now seek to question Trump attorney, sources say, from Will Staken, Catherine Falders, and Olivia Rubin. Fulton County prosecutors leading the criminal investigation into efforts by former President Trump and his allies to overturn the results of the 2020 election are now looking to question one of Trump's attorneys as part of the probe, sources familiar with the matter told ABC News. Prosecutors in DA Willis's office have requested an interview with Trump attorney Christina Bobb. According to multiple sources, it's not clear what information prosecutors hope to gain from Bobb, whose role in Trump's handling of classified documents is also being examined by special prosecutor Jack Smith. Excuse me, I mean prosecutor. Oops, did I do that again? Did I make an oopsie again? Silly me. Criminal defense attorney John Lauro, who represents Bob, confirmed to ABC News that Fulton County prosecutors called him last week and requested an interview with Bob. The prosecutors did not specify what information they were looking to glean from speaking with Bob, Lauro said, adding that the prosecutors knew nothing about any role that Christina Bobb had since she had nothing to do with Georgia. Bob plans to deny the request from Fulton County prosecutors, Lauro said. Well, I'm sure that they're going out there to probably try to railroad her and say that she might go in unless she spills and dumps attorney-client privilege. No prosecutor would ever do that, right? Right? Alright, and that is all that we have for Trump news. What have we been at this for? What do we do? I think it was... Well, we're at the 125.07 mark. And at the 125.07 mark, I know that we did... It was probably 5 minutes of intro while I was making the announcements everywhere. And then, 15 minutes of finance? Which means that we've been talking Trump for over an hour. Still, even with the delays in it. Now we get to go talk about other politicians behaving badly. From Twitter. Joe Biden with a special video that he has to come out and tell you. We're going to listen to the video, and then if necessary, we'll go read the tweet.
I just signed this veto because the legislation passed by the Congress would put at risk the retirement savings of individuals across the country. They couldn't take into consideration investments that would be impacted by climate, impacted by overpaying executives, and that's why I decided to veto it. It makes sense to veto it. I just signed this veto because
I just woke up from my nap. I had my bran muffin and I want to go back to bed. Why is there a camera in my face? Oh, apparently this is important, and the retirement savings of every day. I don't have to worry about retirement savings.
Anyway, according to the tweet,
I just vetoed my first bill. This bill would risk your retirement savings by making it illegal to consider risk factors. MAGA Republicans don't like. And follow me. I'm the great uniter-in-chief, and not those evil MAGA Republicans. Your plan manager should be able to protect your hard-earned savings. Whether Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think that's the name of somebody that I'm not supposed to like, whether he likes it or not. That's a he, right? That's a she? Oh, Does she smell good? Okay. From the Associated Press, Biden issues first veto, taking on new Republican House, from Zeke Miller and Sung Min Kim. I want to point out the editorialization on this already. And it's terrible. Taking on new Republican House. This came out of a Democrat Senate. And this is bipartisan. I don't know what the vote line was on the House side. But I know that it was 52, or not 52, because there are two members of the Senate out right now. So we're 40, what are we at? 50 to 49 is the full number. Which means that this one, 51 to 47. 48, I'm sorry. 51 to 48. No, it would be 47, wouldn't it? I don't know. But this is from Zeke Miller and Sung Min Kim. President Biden issued the first veto of his presidency on Monday in an early sign of shifting White House relations with the new Congress. Since Republicans took control of the House in January, a move that serves as a prelude to bigger battles with GOP lawmakers on government spending and the nation's debt limit. Biden sought to kill a Republican-authored measure that would ban the government from considering environmental impacts or potential lawsuits when making investment decisions for people's retirement plans. In a video released by the White House, Biden said he vetoed the measure because it puts at risk the retirement savings of individuals across the country. No, it doesn't. In fact, it does the opposite. And we'll be talking just a bit about what's in this. But in reality, not what the White House is going to tell you, in reality, number one, the executive order allowed them to use ESG or potential lawsuits, but in doing so, they can drum up a plaintiff to go sue anybody. You can sue a ham sandwich, which means that anything that's taking off that's not in their ESG score, they can potentially put somebody up to put into a lawsuit. And I was like, oh no, oh, you don't want to put this in here, do you? His first veto represents a more confrontational approach at the midway of Biden's term in office, as he faces a GOP-controlled House that is eager to undo parts of his policy legacy and investigate his admin and his family. Complicating matters for Biden, several Democrat senators are up for re-election next year in conservative states, giving them political incentives to put some distance between them and the White House. You shouldn't really need that much incentive. This White House is corrupt. That is all. The measure vetoed by Biden would have effectively reinstated a Trump-era ban on federal managers of retirement plans considering factors such as climate change, social impacts, or pending lawsuits when making investment choices. The veto could also help calm some anger from environmentalists who have been upset with Biden admin for its recent decision to greenlight the Willow Oil Project, a massive and contentious drilling project in Alaska, which is that's probably what's driving the relief at the pump right now. Not the big relief, but the little bit of relief that we can actually celebrate with. The president vetoed the bill because it jeopardizes the hard-earned life savings of cops, firefighters, and teachers, and other workers, the White House spokesperson Robin Patterson said. But critics say so-called environmental, social, and government investments allocate money based on political agendas, such as a drive against climate change, rather than on earnings of best returns for savers. Republicans in Congress who pushed the measure said environmental or social considerations in investments by the government are just another example of being woke. In his first veto, Biden just sided with woke Wall Street over workers, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy tweeted on Monday. Tells you exactly where his priorities lie. He said it's clear Biden wants Wall Street to use your retirement savings to fund his far-left political causes. Biden's veto is likely to prevail, just 3 Democrats in Congress
1 in the House and 2 in the Senate supported Republicans in the matter, making it unlikely a 2/3 majority in both chambers would be assembled to overcome Biden's veto. Jared Golden of Maine was the sole Democrat to back the resolution in the House, while John Tester and Joe Manchin supported it from the Senate. Golden is a perennial target of Republicans seeking to oust him from his conservative district, while Tester and Manchin are both up for re-election next year. The admin continues to prioritize the radical policy agenda over the economic, energy, and national security needs of our country, and it's absolutely infuriating, Manchin said in a statement. Though Biden swiftly vetoed the investment resolution, other measures coming from Capitol Hill in the weeks and months ahead could be a tougher call for the White House. The admin initially signaled that Biden would reject a Republican-authored measure that would override a crime measure passed by the D.C. Council, but the president later said he would sign it and did so on Monday. He also signed a bill directing the federal government to declassify intelligence related to the origins of the pinko pox. So, yeah, this, of course, being the first veto, and it is an important one. What was brought up with this is, I mean, it's important. Now, under a Republican admin, while these managers of these particular funds are most likely appointed by a Republican, maybe a MAGA Republican, they're probably not going to look into the ESG score of this. But if they can, and they're appointed by an activist, whoever's pulling the strings of Biden, then yes, they will go back and use their position to come back and say, hey, okay, well, now we're going to go back and shove a bunch of ESG into your face. So, a lot of stuff happening there. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff that we see, and that is where we're at. This is a little bit of information about this. John Kennedy, senator for Louisiana, in a press release says, John Kennedy and Mike Braun and more than 40 other Republican senators today introduced a Congressional Review Act resolution to prevent the Biden admin from enforcing a Department of Labor rule that would encourage fiduciaries to support environmental, social, and corporate governance priorities over growing Americans' retirement accounts. And, I mean, realistically, from where they would go with something like that, something that I can honestly say is they do need to pay attention to, I mean, especially if you're overlooking a government 401k. You really should be looking for the best numbers, not necessarily going on something that goes on your agenda. And that goes both ways. I know in the other avenue of things, with Republicans and especially like the Bushite Republicans, they'd probably be looking at a lot of defense contractors and a lot of oil companies. Whereas the Biden admin would probably be looking at a lot of green projects, a lot of racial projects and things like that. Whereas, of course, it should always be going directly towards who is performing the best in the markets. And raising the trust fund so we can get a more secure retirement for these people that are working for the government for whatever reason. You all know I'm against working for the government. President Biden's attempt to use Americans' retirement plans to bankroll the woke agenda is fiscally irresponsible and morally wrong. Congress must reject this rule before American families suffer even more, just so Biden can support the left's pet projects, said Kennedy. President Biden is jeopardizing retirement savings for millions of Americans for political agenda in a time when Americans' 401ks have already taken such a hit due to market downturns and record high inflation. The last thing that we should do is encourage fiduciaries to make decisions with a lower rate of return for purely ideological reasons. That's why we are proud to stand up against the rule for millions of Americans who depend on these funds for their retirement, said Braun. And this, by the way, is an override of an executive order as well. From Fox, Republicans torch Biden veto of bipartisan ESG bill. Good luck explaining this one. From Houston Keene. Republicans tore into President Biden's first veto and that stopped a bipartisan bill removing a new Labor Department rule encouraging retirement fiduciaries to consider ESG issues in the investments. Encouraging, but not requiring. That is an important part of the bill that I think that a lot of the Republicans that are against this bill are leaving out when they explain this. That's important to look at when we look at something like this too, is the fact that, yes, this is the situation of where people are going to come in from either side and say, okay, this is my pet project. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to pay attention to. And again, your Bushite Republicans and even probably your MAGA Republicans would be guilty of this as well. Oh, hey, I want to go put all this money into defense contractors because I think we're going to go start a war. Or these are people that have donated to my campaign fund. Or in the Biden avenue of things, I want to put things into the racial project or the solar panel project or anything else like that. Because these are people who are donating to my campaign fund. And honestly, I would even look into that and say, okay, well, we want to go invest this into pro-Trump companies and things like that, because this bill would have prevented this. The thing that drives me nuts, by the way, about government, and when they make a bill that benefits them, or an executive order that benefits them, like Biden did with this one here, is they never think about what happens when somebody they don't like comes back into power. And I think, and maybe this was the mistake that was done in 2020 as well, when Donald Trump was starting to do things by executive order, the fact that, Joe Biden might be in office at some point later on and doing things that you don't like. Or, under the Obama administration, giving all this power over the executive branch without ever stopping to consider the fact that somebody you might not like, with small hands and weird orange hair and overly tan skin, might be sitting in the White House at some point. I am all for this bill, because not only does it take the ESG incentive away from this, but it blocks Bushites and neocons and neoliberals, and yes, even MAGA Republicans from doing the same thing, using their own policy agendas. And the people who donate to their campaigns as a benchmark for who's going to get the government contracts and the government stocks. Not necessarily what would be the best performer. This blocks everybody from doing that. But so many people in DC are so unbelievably short-sighted. They can't see past the next term of Congress. And I hate that. And of course, the Uniter-in-Chief had to go back and tear into Marjorie Taylor Greene by name as well. Congressional Republicans, understandably, are not happy with the president's move, especially bill architect Andy Barr. President Biden's first veto is on a bipartisan, bicameral measure that I champion through Congress to protect retail investors. Barr told Fox News Digital, instead of siding with Americans who are increasingly unable to afford retirement, Biden's veto puts the climate activists and special interest groups he is beholden to ahead of the middle-class American investors. It's a shame, and it further reflects his priorities and who he really represents in office, Barr added. Can't believe I'm about to say this, but Andy Barr is right. Mike Braun also slammed the president's veto, wishing Biden luck on explaining this one to the American people. Today, President Biden used his first veto to reject bipartisan consensus in the House and Senate that Americans' retirement savings should be invested to get the best return, not support woke nonsense, Braun said. Good luck explaining this one. I just explained it I spent a lot more time on it than I should have, but I just explained this in like 4 minutes. Mark Wayne Mullen joined his Indiana colleague in blasting the president's move, saying Biden admin's reckless ESG rule proves nothing's off limits when it comes to Biden's radical green agenda, even Americans' hard-earned retirement savings. And again, I point out the fact that this would have stopped everybody from doing this. Not just the Biden admin. More on blocking of Biden here from the Daily Wire. DeSantis back into the news. DeSantis unveils plan to battle Biden's efforts to inject a centralized bank digital currency. From Ben Ziesloft. Governor DeSantis revealed a proposal on Monday meant to combat implementation of a central bank digital currency by the Federal Reserve and the Biden admin. Critics of a potential central bank digital currency note that the asset, which would be managed by the Federal Reserve and tethered to the value of the dollar, would create opportunities for government surveillance and control of private citizens. DeSantis proposed legislation that would ban the recognition of the central bank digital currencies, whether from the federal government or an overseas central bank, as money under Florida's Uniform Commercial Code. I'm curious right now, could we go back and... I don't know if this is possible. I would have to research and look at the laws that govern the Federal Reserve, but could we go back to a situation where every state issues its own currency? Is that in the cards? I don't know. I'm not asking to be facetious. I actually don't know the answer to that question. Look, the Biden admin's efforts to eject a centralized bank digital currency is about surveillance and control, DeSantis said in a press release. Today's announcement will protect Florida consumers and businesses from the reckless adoption of a centralized digital dollar, which will stifle innovation and promote government-sanctioned surveillance. Florida will not side with economic central planners. We will not adopt policies that will threaten personal economic freedom and security. Nations such as China, Australia, Japan, India, Russia, and South Korea are presently exploring central bank digital currencies, which have already been established in the Bahamas, Nigeria, and Jamaica, according to a report from the Atlantic Council. Skeptics of a central bank digital currencies have noted that many instances in which the financial system has been leveraged by the public and private actors to oppose certain political perspectives, including those often held by conservatives. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoked emergency powers last year to freeze the personal and corporate bank accounts of people involved with demonstrations against vaccine mandates. While PayPal announced the firm would withdraw funds from accounts deemed to be promoting racism or misinformation, a policy the company later claimed was published by mistake. And again, I cannot go back to them. I would love to have my PayPal back. It made life a lot simpler, but at what cost? I can't afford $2,500 every time they think that I said something wrong. I just lost a day at Contemporary last week on the main channel because YouTube thought that I said something naughty 2 years ago. Kristi Noem recently vetoed legislation that would have classified a potential central bank digital currency as money. In South Dakota's Uniform Commercial Code, DeSantis called on other states to adopt similar prohibitions in digital assets. A central bank digital currency is the cornerstone of a federal government that could track each and every transaction that happens in the world. Oh wait, no, that's not DeSantis. That is Florida Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis. There would be no privacy, and if there is no privacy, there are no rights. In the same way Florida's fighting back against the IRS, we need to fight back against this program. It's how we protect freedom, liberty, and prosperity. One paper from the Federal Reserve argued that a central bank digital currency would preserve the international role of the dollar, promote inclusion in the financial system, and mitigate pitfalls from cryptos such as liquidity risk and credit risk. President Biden issued a whole-of-government approach to addressing the risks and harnessing the potential benefits of digital assets and their underlying technology, while reports generated by the admin encouraged the Federal Reserve to continue to research into the tech and call upon the Treasury Department to establish an interagency working group to support the initiative. That is a lot of words to come out and say that they want to watch what it is that you do. And with that, I think we are out of time for the day. I think I'm the only one left here. But I made a promise, and I made a promise that on Monday we would look through live chat for the day. So, first, we come over here. You can see how the sausage was made over here. As we come out of the encoder and go back and look at the analytics. That's the first thing we're going to do is go back. Got one on for... That's live right now. And we start with March 14th. March 13th, rather. I apologize. At 6:09 p.m. 2 hours and 17 minutes. Pull up our chat trends. Do have the right day, right? Yes, the 13th. So it was a slow week last week, by the way. I will say that. And I know that me having words with Spartan and Ron Helton affected things. But I stand by what I said. We cannot just sit here and continue to bash the Jews on this channel because I am not like that. So we will see what this does for the channel going forward. But our chatters on Monday were Beam Me Up Mr. Scott, 80s Kid, and Blind Fear. On the 14th, which it does look like we were not able to come back in and get a effective. There we go. Or finally, when we got in and it kept kicking me off. Spectrum, thank you. Give that a minute to think. Tuesday's chatters, once we got started, were Boulder Vaughn, Blind Peer, and Luke Wee. Thank you. Wednesday, our chatters. Mr. Scott and Blind Fear on a very, very slow chat day, of course. Thursday. Giving a minute to think, it's thinking. Thursday we actually kicked back into gear a little bit. Mr. Scott was here. Mr. Scott had 147 messages on Thursday's broadcast. Thank you for that, by the way. Major Victory was here. Arvolt, I actually said the Major Victory was it was a major victory to have Major Victory here. Arvolt was here. Into was here. Blind Fear, and Spartan even showed up for a message, which means that he isn't completely mad at me, and he seems to respect where we were coming from with this. And Friday, St. Patrick's Day, when we were on the backup channel, by the way. Did we even have chat on Friday? I don't remember. Oh, yeah. Because Kingdom Hearts, Lucas Gabriel was here, and Arvolt as well were both here on Friday. Today, started off strong, finished off a little bit slow, but that's fine. Everybody counts. Always glad to see everybody here. And by the way, if you are lurking, you got a little bit of a chance to still get messages in. Quest Fanning tells he was shared on Twitter, so thank you for that, by the way. Follow on Twitter, that is at JEdgar102, where you're watching on YouTube and Twitch as JEdgar101, but JEdgar102 on Twitter, because 101 is taken by a girl who's been inactive for 7 years in New Zealand. Justine Edgar, by the way. If anybody knows her, or knows anybody in New Zealand who might, see if she'll release the handle. Quest says, I may be making a short video by Trump Tower on my way to the office on tomorrow morning rather. Be careful. Quest Fanning asks, wheel tax. Yes. This is a tax that some municipalities in Wisconsin put on for the pleasure of keeping your vehicle in their town. Kenosha has one, Milwaukee has one, Madison has one. Actually, Madison's countywide. And I think, by the way, I said municipality. I do think it's a countywide one. Now that I'm thinking and remembering who assessed them, I think it's a county tax. I don't think it's a municipality. It might be municipality, though. because I don't remember ever seeing one in like Twin Lakes or anything like that. But they assess a certain tax for the pleasure of keeping a vehicle in their county. Taxation is theft. Quest Panic says KTZed got demonetized and Steven got a strike both today. Is KTZed even big enough to be monetized? Well, I mean, if she is, congratulations, obviously. I like seeing KTZed's success. The only reason that I don't promote her at the beginning of the show is because I know that she is working with and signed on to a different agency, which I've debated going and seeing if she can get me in with them. I know that I want to start my own, but, you know, to come back and help grow after the major loss from not doing a morning show anymore, it's crossed my mind to go back and join forces with Hawkhauser Media instead of going back to try to fun turn some pages. Let's see. Quest Fanning says naggers. Yes, that is spelled correctly. I'd like to solve the puzzle, please. Blind Fear came in earlier on today. Thank you. Luke Wee is back from Vegas and really don't care for this weather, which I know I accosted Luke Wee a little bit for that earlier because like we had when I went to my dad's on Saturday afternoon after work, it was 9 degrees out. And it was 54 today while I was coming home. Let's see, what else do we have? Let's see. Quest Fanning says, I only live a couple minutes from you by a cruise missile. It's interesting to note. Luke says, it's only I got to 36 where I'm at, and when I got back it was 7 and snowing. You must have come back over the weekend. We didn't get the snow, thankfully. We got a lot of wind, though. Quest says it rained from 30 to 51 today, expecting 36 to 58 tomorrow. I don't think it's going to get below 40 tonight, if I remember correctly here. Quest says Swiss francs have been low inflation, and I expected them, as I've expected the past few years. And then he paid $3.33 in Brooklyn on Saturday for gas. I'm a little surprised by that, I'm not gonna lie. I get up and start working in the morning, it's 10 degrees out, and by the time I go to dinner, I'm basically wearing my dress shirt. Quest Fanning says layers. Says duck eggs have become a good value. Again, I've never tried duck eggs. I would like to. I think that'd be good. 6 very large and yummy eggs for $3.99 versus $7 a dozen for chicken eggs. Oh, it's $2.99 for chicken eggs here, so. Yeah, if you haven't tried pheasant eggs, try pheasant eggs. They're really good. That I can say for sure. They are really, really good. A little bit gamey, a little bit richer in flavor. My mom used to get ostrich egg as a treat from the food section at the department store near her mom worked at Gimbel's. I don't know what Gimbel's is. Somebody I knew in high school, I wouldn't exactly call her a friend, but her and her mom used to dry out and decorate ostrich eggs. Like they'd get the meat out of them. And I know that they made ostrich egg omelets and stuff. But they'd get the meat out of the ostrich egg, and then they actually would, I think they had an emu or an ostrich too. I don't remember ever seeing it, but I remember hearing about that. And then they would like decorate the shell after the fact. Quest says the Krasensteins used to follow me on Twitter. I'm thinking of trying to make a quick video and to get a look and share the scene by Trump Tower tomorrow morning. Send that to me by Twitter DM. Do it by Twitter DM so I can get it off the computer rather than trying to get it off my phone. If you do, there's usually some small demonstration across the, from the building. Yeah, we talked about Karen McDougal. How's Fanny? It's true, I was the lube boy. And then Quest Fanning took off and the chat dropped off, so we'll see if we can get some more people going until the end of the show tomorrow. and for the rest of the week. But with that, we're done. I'm going to go get something to eat. I don't know what I'm going to get to eat yet, but I'm going to get something. I had some leftovers, probably got to eat. I think I got some mac and cheese. Like box mac and cheese. The cheap stuff, which for whatever reason I like better than the expensive stuff. I don't know why. Where's the outro music? Where's the outro music and who am I going to raid? And it's just going to be me going over there. Because I look over and I see nobody over on Twitch. We got to get more people over on Twitch too because, man, I love getting money off Twitch. So with that, we're out of here for the night. Thank you to the lurkers, the listeners, everybody who's been here throughout the program. We will be back here tomorrow to talk about whether or not there actually was a charge, whether or not there was violence, whether or not the feds were able to stage something, or whether or not they walk away to the theme of the Imperial March. That'll be a good time. Plus, we will talk about banking. We will talk about what's happening there. I've got some news on the Ukraine and a few other things that we weren't able to get to today because, as usual, with the Orange Man, he sucks all the oxygen out of the room. So, come back and join us here for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. We will see you then. And until tomorrow, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.